You are live, Madam Chair. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sierra. Good morning to the Douglas County Board of Commissioners and the citizens of Douglas County. Welcome to our September 1st, 2022, 10 o'clock virtual work session via Zoom. I will call this meeting to order with roll call. District 1 Commissioner Henry Mitchell III.
Present.
District 2 Commissioner and Vice Chairman Kelly Robinson.
Present.
District 3 Commissioner Terenia Carpin.
Present.
District 4 Commissioner Ann Jones-Guider.
Present.
Lamona Jackson-Jones, Chairman, present. Board of Commissioners, we do confirm this morning. We're going to move on into our public comment. Clerk, do we have anyone sign up for public comment this morning?
Good morning, Chairman. We did not have anyone sign in, but I would like to extend an invitation. If there are any citizens on the line that would like to speak, let me know at this time. Chairman, there doesn't appear to be anyone, so I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Clerk Watson. Board of Commissioners, certainly we have presentations this morning. We have tomorrow, not tomorrow, but Tuesday of next week, we have, I've requested Mr. Heath King from Wellstar, who is the interim operations lead for the Wellstar Douglas Hospital, to come and just introduce himself to the Board of Commissioners at our upcoming legislative meeting. He has replaced at this time, just on the interim basis, Mr. Craig Owens, who is the former Chief Executive Officer of Wellstar, who has retired. So really wish Mr. Craig Owens very much luck and a lot of fun on his retirement. Also, Board of Commissioners, tomorrow you have the, I don't know why I want it to be the next day, Tuesday of next week, which will be September, is that September 5th, Lisa, Clerk? What day is that? I want to make sure I provide the correct date.
It is September the 6th.
September 6th, Board of Commissioners, be prepared to approve our minutes, which is a commission work session, special call in the executive session. All right, Board of Commissioners, also we have a proclamation, which is tab number 5, proclaiming the month of September 2022 as Drug-Free Pain Management Month in Douglas County. And that presentation will be read by Dr. Leslie Walker, who's a chiropractor here in Douglas County. So what I'll do, Board of Commissioners, I'm going to take it back to our presentations. And this morning, we have with us Judge Talia Nurse here to just give us a briefing on called the STAND program. Judge Nurse, are you here?
I am. Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
And I want to extend my sincerest appreciation to you and the Board of Commissioners for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you this morning. I come before you all to introduce a very new initiative to Douglas County, which is called STAND. It's an acronym that stands for Students Taking Action for a Non-Violent Douglas. And today is our official launch day of this initiative, and it will target Douglas County youngsters ages 9 to 11 years of age. This has been a wonderful collaboration between juvenile court, juvenile programs with Director King and Assistant Director Jamie Dappermont, as well as our Sheriff's Office. I had hoped we would have Deputy Travis Mason on with me this morning to speak about it, because this really started with a lot of his vision, and we were able to merge the two. But I think he's en route, so he may be able to pop in before I'm done. He's here, right on time. All right, so I don't know if they can see Deputy Mason. But if you all, I'm sure you all are aware that in the last year, we have seen an increase in surge in violent activity amongst our youngsters. And we see teenagers who are either accused of manufacturing guns and sadly taking lives. And we want it to be a solution to that problem. It is very important for young people at that age to start to identify law enforcement as well as judges as allies and the good guys. we would much rather have a positive interaction with them when they are youngsters versus when they have to see us for, being in trouble and they've got to take a ride to the courthouse and come see us in our black robes. So we have developed STAND. It is an 8-week project, and it will be based on the curriculum of Lead Up, which is a book by Bernard K. Haynes. We will go in depth on a week-to-week basis, and I think Deputy Mason has identified some of his colleagues that will actually be facilitating some of these courses. Judge Harrison and I will make appearances from time to time, as well as others in the community. So we are very excited about this. This is completely free, a free program to youngsters in Douglas County ages 9 to 11 years of age. And thankfully, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Captain Trent Wilson with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, who has graciously allowed us the use of his church, Open Door Christian Church International, as the location ground for these meetings. If parents or caretakers are interested in having their youngsters participate in this program, you may go to the juvenile programs site on the Celebrate Douglas website. I think there is a blurb that went out today on the Douglas County Sheriff's Office.
We hope so. We're working on it yesterday.
All right. For folks to sign up, space is limited, but we will certainly do more cohorts as time passes. And so right now we want to get started with our inaugural class, and then we will rotate out every 8 weeks. We hope to have a graduation ceremony to make this a really big deal when we have our young people commit to being leaders, not only within their school settings, but in the community at large. So with that, I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to ask Deputy Mason if he wants to chime in, because this has been a lot of his brainchild.
Judge Nurse, she really summed it up. Just when it started out, I was just hoping that we could somehow curve all the youth coming through the court system, and also just help repair some of the relationship between law enforcement and the community. And I think with the kids, that's just a great jump start.
All right. We're happy to answer any questions if anyone has questions. If not, you may certainly call us or reach out to us, and we'll be happy to point you in the right direction.
Thank you so much, Judge Nurse.
Madam Chair.
Officer Mason. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Very, very good. And thank you both for obviously the presentation. This is needed in Douglas County. This is needed in Douglas County, I believe, in listening to city citizens, whether it's north of the tracks or south of the tracks, whether it's east or west. Now I have access to information, and the opening comment was that, well, as you know, crime is up in essence, or that we're having a lot of our youth. And I'm like, well, I'd like to quantify that. So we don't have to do it now if you don't know it, but just recently I had Lieutenant Colonel Pounds come out to an HOA. I mean, data is important. So what order of magnitude are we really looking at? Second part is that how many youth do you hope to get through this program? 3, how can the board help you in advocating other than bringing visibility to it? Because I believe in what you're doing. You're going to have to bridge that gap. And I appreciate you wanting to do that. But also, again, taking a concern with the youth. And it is that juvenile right. We need another juvenile judge. What now? I mean, is that much volume? And y'all already overworked? I get it. I've always gotten it. But so I'm highlighting. You don't have to respond. I'm just making these rhetorical comments for the meeting minutes, and I'll double back with you guys afterwards. But, keep going. These type of programs are, as he said, first step, a very good step to try to curb this thing. But it is real. We can't pretend like it ain't happening. You can close your eyes and close your ears. But I appreciate you guys just jumping right in here on this. And I thank you both for taking this up. That's all I wanted to make the statements. Well done. Keep it going. And I'll catch up with you guys later. I'll see you, Judge Nurse, at our meeting. Madam Chair, I yield. Thank you. I'm good.
All right, thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. Commissioner Guider, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Judge Nurse, you mentioned that violent crimes are up and everything. What type? Can you be more specific? Is it gang related? Is it just fights, or is it shooting each other, or what?
We have certainly seen an uptick in, we base our information off of the data that we house in terms of the offenses with which the young people are being charged. And I think at the last cull of the data that I looked at, we have seen an uptick in some of the gang-related offenses. We've certainly seen an uptick in a lot of the battery and assault offenses. There have been lots of incidents at the Arbor Place Mall. And so I think those would be more of the physically aggressive type of offenses that we've seen. Judge Harrison is on, and we've actually had the benefit of having technical assistants that came through and actually culled our data recently to tell us the type of offenses and the population of youth that we're dealing with. And so she may have even more specifics because she has the report. I don't mean to put you on spot, Judge Harrison.
Well, the report doesn't tell us the report that was provided by a technical assistance grant fund was really to look at equity and inclusion, and it wasn't case specific. So that information deals specifically with, where are we in terms of arrests and discriminatory numbers in that respect. So I can't give you specific information regarding the kinds of charges that we're seeing, but I can certainly at some other time give you some information regarding what our discrepancy of numbers look like in terms of charges that are being brought before the court, not the specific charges. But I do think that we are seeing, at least whether it's formally through the court, we are certainly seeing information provided by the media, the school system, law enforcement, that, the crimes that are occurring these days, whether they're our youth or young adults, are certainly increasing in the types of crimes that are being committed.
Okay, I'd love to sit down with you and go over.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can forward you the report that was provided to us if you would like for me to.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
I appreciate both of y'all do great work with our youth, but it just seems like the nation is more divided now than ever, and in our county also. So we need to change course of action somehow. So I appreciate what y'all do, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We hope to be able to curb some of the youngsters who may be idolizing a big brother or big sister doing some of these violent offenses. We want to curb them while they're younger, and hopefully reach them and prevent them from going down that path.
Madam Chair, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Guider. All right, any other questions, board?
Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Carthen, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Judge Nurse, and good
Morning.
Deputy. My question to you is, how will you actually chart this? Like, how will you actually see that this is working? Because I know Douglas County has grown, so we would, of course, have an uptick in crime, an uptick in certain areas because the population has grown. The census showed us that. So in correlation to that, one, how will you track this? And two, what is the correlation between the population that we served 5 years ago versus the population that you're serving today?
I saw
You
Judge
want me-
Harrison unmute, so I didn't know she wanted to jump in first.
Well, I can tell you that one of the things that, we'll be sharing with y'all at our retreat is that we are actually switching our database from ICON to what's called JCATS, and I apologize, it's an acronym, and it's juvenile court related, but I can't tell you what the ATS stands for, but I promise by the retreat I will. But it is a database that was created specifically by the Council of Juvenile Court Judges, and it deals specifically with juvenile court data. ICON is a great, wonderful system, but it was really created for the superior and state court system, and doesn't capture all of the things that we need capturing. And so that's why we've kind of taken advantage of grant opportunities to do this research in regard to our numbers, because it's not very easy to pull it out of ICON. Anyway, the point being is in January, we're switching over to this database, and we're really hoping to be able to get some more specific numbers as they apply to us. One of the things that was very interesting with the report that we got, that I'm sending a copy to Commissioner Guider, is that all of the numbers are based on what the charges are, not what the youth actually ended up being adjudicated and disposed on, which is really a law enforcement issue. So we've been working with the DA's office to actually try to see if we can work on some of the discrepancies with law enforcement as well. But back to answering your question to the best of my ability, I think once we have JCATS involved and we get a full understanding of how to manipulate that system, we're going to be able to track information very easy. In terms of the differences from 5 years ago to now, that's a great question. And I don't know that I would be able to answer that, right off the top of my head. I would have to look into that a little bit deeper. And I'm happy to do so.
That's fine. And, my only thing, and I'm hoping that you all will help us to model this for us not to work in silos, right? Because I heard you say, the school system, judicial, DA, you all, if we can all work together, right, we get to curb this. So this becomes the model of how do you do that? How do you not work in silos? How do you, cooperate and use as much information without violation? Because we know privacy is an issue, right? So how do you do that and not work in silos, but help everybody to see what the trends are so that this data can be plain, because we know data is the source of how we as Board of Commissioners appropriate and legislate and make our decisions. So this is good. I'm excited. Thank you guys for doing this, and I look forward to seeing what the outcomes will be. I yield.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Carthen. Any other? All right.
Madam Chair?
Vice Chair.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just a point that was just made, and I agree with both of my colleagues' opinions. I'd like to get that equity data as well. So I would encourage you guys in the juvenile court to send it to all of the Board of Commissioners to be good information. You mentioned something about your system and that the current ICON does not provide adequate. It was built around a point solution around superior state court, which is totally different than probably juvenile, perhaps magistrate, and perhaps probate. I'm glad you brought this up because I'm a big proponent of data and consistency and granularity. And so it sounds like you're going to be able to get to what you need to, you said, in January. Is this something that we're already aware of? Are you already down the path? Is the state providing this? How is that working for you? I'm just curious.
The good news is that the JCAT system is free. So that's the good news. And we actually are receiving a grant that is going to provide the transfer of the data.
Right.
So there, of course they have packages that cost money, but we're going to, try to see how long and how well we can work with JCATS without getting into the cost of things. So I do know that we had discussed this. My clerk has gone before the technology committee requesting permission to make the change, and she made a presentation to them, and they gave us the go ahead.
That's great to hear. Again, there are certain times where it's not one flavor. And I've always questioned the singleness of trying to push Icon as being the be-all to these very different courts. You guys have different information needs, and it's becoming apparent. And I'm glad that we're making the adjustments. Kudos to the Technology Committee for getting that. You got to give these courts and these elected officials a little autonomy to be able to shape so they can get the right information. So when they bring that information forward, that we make the right appropriation. It's not some type of flaw or some type of narrative. So, no, I had to just make that point, and I was paying attention. So thank you all, Madam Chair. I'm good, Judge. We're good. Madam Chair, I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman Robinson. Thank you so much, Judge Nurse and Officer Mason and Judge Harrison this morning for the presentation. Look forward to some great outcomes in the next 8 weeks. And certainly if you need to reach out to the Board of Commissioners, I know we are open to any support that you need during this process. So thank you and congratulations for getting out the gate early and leading the way here in Georgia for youth at risk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Board of Commissioners, we're going to move on to tab number 6 to consider, it's a public hearing. We have 2 coming up on the 6th of September, which is next Tuesday. Tab number 6 is to consider an amendment to section 10-19 standards for water mains and fire hydrants of the Douglas County Code of Ordinance. Phil Schaefer will be presenting that information for us, but if you could, Phil, are you on the line?
I'm here. Yes, Madam Chair.
Just give us the Reader's Digest version of what's come forth. I believe you've met with each commissioner on an individual basis, but still, you can do it again for the public.
Okay, Madam Chair. So what we're asking on behalf of the chief this morning is to allow him some flexibility in the imposition of section 1019 of the code regarding fire hydrants and water mains, so that in that section, he has some flexibility to offer up deviation from the exact written letter of the law should the need arise. We talked about this in the context of the pipe materials that are called out in the code. They're very specific. It's been very hard to get some of them for a time. As the chief mentioned last week, he does not anticipate making many, if any, deviations from the code, but at least this would give him the flexibility to be able to say a different type of pipe would be acceptable for this specific purpose. And that's why we were seeking this on his behalf.
Thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Board of Commissioners, we had some discussions, I believe, in our last work session regarding this pipe and the variation and the request from the fire chief. But certainly I open the floor for questions if you have them. Any questions for Mr. Schaefer? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you have the floor, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How big is the pipe again? Well, I just heard, I missed the number. Bill.
So it's anticipated to have a requirement right now that at least 8-inch ductile iron pipe be used for the mains.
Gotcha.
And I don't know that we're varying the size of the pipe. It was more an issue of the type of pipe being used, ductile iron versus heavy gauge plastic.
I got you. No, I got an 8-inch. And so this is to all fire hydrants, right?
It's to the water lines and fire hydrants that are used, yes.
Now, how many fire hydrants do we have?
I would have to defer to the chief.
So we need to know this. How many fire hydrants do we have?
And this would only apply to new. This is not.
All right, so let me try it again. I still want my answer. How many fire hydrants do we have in the county? I want to know, do we even track it? And do we even?
So the Water Sewer Authority that Madam Chair sits on would be the harbor for that knowledge. The issue is they have a GIS layer that maps every single fire hydrant. So that information can be gotten to you.
Okay, no problem. Madam Chair, is Chief out there or somebody? This is just sort of top of mind. I mean, if you're going to go somewhere, you need to know that there's fire. I mean, that should be top of mind. I just want to know what the answer is.
Our chief, are you on the line this morning?
I want
Yes.
to pull a report to tell me the number of fire hydrants.
Yeah, fire chief is here. Certainly, if he does not have that information in his fingertips, we can certainly get it to you from WSA. Chief, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and the rest of the commissioners and citizens. Roughly, we have right around 7,000 hydrants countywide. I'll get you the exact number, but we actually check those hydrants as far as safety and operable at least twice a year. And WSA actually does the repair and all that. But I'll get you the exact number, Commissioner, so we'll have that for the record.
No, thank you. I was just looking for order of magnitude. So there's 199 square miles in this entire county. You can figure out some math from that. There's 146,000 citizens, so per capita per fire hydrant. How many buildings? I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at and its impact. That was all. And so,
yes.
But that was important. Well, how many fire hydrants? And next question is, how often do you maintain this? I get going forward. How often do we maintain, or whomever? How often does the system, not you personally, how often does the system maintain these fire hydrants? And the only reason I bring this up, there was a fire I heard on TV recently, and they had there was a concern about not having water, and so that's what prompted my okay, how are we doing? So this is not an indictment; it's just trying to get understanding on how we handle things. So can you answer that for me, sir?
Yes, sir. Basically, we check the hydrants on a routine basis. It's part of our ISO requirements, and it's part of our pre-planning for our operational readiness. And if we find an issue with the hydrants while we're checking them, WSA actually does the maintenance on the hydrants. We will report the information to them, and they will take care of it. We do have some areas that we're working on that does not have hydrants in them, and we're looking at the idea of a tanker. Or right now, we're using our water to shuttle and do mutual aid, but we do check those hydrants regularly, and if we have an issue, we report it and process. But through our pre-planning, we identify the areas that does not have water, and we take extra vehicles to the scene to accommodate the need for water, so to speak.
Gotcha.
Commissioner
Right.
Robinson, could I share? Allison was able to look up real quick on GIS. We have 7,010 fire hydrants.
How accurate were you, Chief? You were within .001. Very good. Very good. No, that's excellent. Thank you, guys. The last question is, okay, so what about the commercial? Obviously, concentration out on the east side of the county has a lot of commercial. So fire hydrants to them, does our code require within those big buildings to have extra pipes over there that you can plug your water into them? How does it work? I get the normal fire hydrant and the house. What about the commercial side? Talk to me about that.
We have to have a certain amount of gallons per minute for the commercial side in order to have a fire rating and everything.
Yes.
So minimum is 3,500 gallons to be able to deliver 3,500 gallons a minute. So we do that in our calculations, and part of what we're doing today is there's been a backlog in getting certain materials to continue our construction and production. So that's why we're looking at alternate means of being able to accommodate safely. And but we do the calculation on the buildings during our pre-planning stage, and we calculate how many gallons a minute that building is going to need to sustain extinguishment. So it's in the planning process, and we're involved with the fire marshal as we do our calculation, and also the contractor. So that's something we do, and it helps us on our ISO rating. So we're up on that, especially in our commercial area.
Do you think that, again, we're in here, this is legislation. When you put forth something, you can either add to it or take it away based on recommendations. So I'm hearing we're just focusing on this pipe. Is there anything else we need to do since we've got this code open? To your point, is your calculation, can we make it better? Is this opportunity, since we talked about this topic, can we make it better? And if so, we got the public hearing tomorrow. I'm not asking you it's not to put you on the spot, but this is how legislation is done. So if we need to do a little bit more than what's just being said, please say so and let us know. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. This is going to be a good step in the right direction in terms of continuing our growth, because we're growing at a very, very fast rate, and this gives us a little bit of leeway to continue growth and not stop it, because some of the ductile iron piping, it may be 11 to 12 months before they can even get it, so talking with WSA, their engineers and all, they have determined that they may be going to some of these piping as well for the public arena, and mainly we're focused on private as well for the contractors, as Phil was pointing out.
So y'all folks see, okay, back to what Mr. Carson said, being, we're sort of siloed, like, okay, so can we sync this up? Okay, duly noted. I'm trusting that my fire and EMS team, y'all guys may weigh in, leaders, and we've got time tomorrow with the public hearing. So I'll just see how this plays out. No, we're good. But thank you, Chief. Thank you, Phil. I'm good. Madam Chair, I yield the floor back. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Board of Commissioners, if there are no other questions, then we'll move on to the next item. Mr. Schaefer has that as well. Tab number 7, to consider an amendment to section 14-82, parking prohibitions to the Douglas County Code of Ordinance. Mr. Schaefer, you have the floor to just briefly explain this to the board.
Yes, Madam Chair. So over the course of the last year or so, we've been working on zoning code amendments, actually for the last couple of years. And one of the amendments that we recently went through was the parking section of that code on behalf of our code enforcement officers and official. What we sat down and talked to them about was enforcement of vehicles parking in travel lanes along streets or along the rights of way in the county. And so what we worked out with code enforcement was some slight modifications to the parking section of the zoning code pieces of the rules. And what we would like to ask of you is to help with their enforcement activities to also modify the article in the Code of Ordinances to reflect some additional language. I'd like to read it just so that it's clear. We took Commissioner Robinson's suggestions to heart last time when we spoke about how this would work. And we did have a modification so that it would be for non-emergency situations, no automobiles for over 24 hours, no school buses, vehicles over 6 wheels, commercial vehicles, trailers, or other non-motorized vehicle accessories for any length of time are allowed to be parked within the public right-of-way. And then while no automobiles shall be parked in any roadway or right-of-way located within Douglas County for a period exceeding 24 hours at the discretion of the Director of Development Services or his/her designee, if an automobile is required to park in a roadway and or right-of-way within Douglas County, it shall not cause an unsafe condition for vehicles in the travel lane. And we added, Commissioner Robinson, local deliveries are exempted from this requirement as long as the delivery vehicle is actively engaged in loading or unloading of goods for the adjoining property address, to try and get at that issue of where we're going to have vehicles parked. We know that in some locations they have to park in the street to unload. As long as they're loading or unloading in front of that address, then they would be exempt. And I'm not sure we caught all of what you were trying to get at, but I hope we caught as much as we can to clarify for our code enforcement that they do have some discretion as to how it gets enforced, and then a little bit of leeway as to what's going on with vehicles that need to park in the right of way or on the edge of the street to be able to make deliveries. And I give the floor back to you, Commissioner.
Okay. Are you yielding back, Vice Chair?
Yes, I'm yielding back.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer, for yielding.
Madam Chair, I never had to vote, but I'll take it.
Okay, no, because
Sorry.
when he said he yield back, he confused me a little bit. Okay, Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right. So no, thank you. Again, we try to hear what staff needs to get their job done. The code enforcement said they need a little bit more clarity. And I thank you for hearing my concerns on this. Again, I'm back to delivery. There's the storefront delivery that's in the right of way. Got it. I'm going to get specifically to some of the concentration of voices that came out of my area, which is specifically Riverside. And, you've got, a huge, coming together of residential and commercial, and that's a big throughway. We know what it is. So what happens, does this address when you've got, you're turning into the actual establishment, but they've got 10 trucks, tractor trailers, not only down their parking lot, their driveway at their gate, all the way onto the street itself, meaning the Riverside. So you could have, 5 in queue and then 5, they all backed up. So one part of this was also we had conversation and communication with those commercial area. That's what my ask was. Are y'all gonna reach out to them and have them at this hearing? Do they get to weigh in on the impact this is going to be? Because what are we really saying that, okay, if you're delivering in front of them? Well, big buildings and warehouses are spread out over 5-10 acres. It's not just on the street. All right, so when you listen to your code says if you're delivering in front of them, well, you're not going to be in front of them. I know that's all relative, but since we're in here on code, I want to make sure that those guys that are at them gates, those 5 double-decker tractor trailers that are all the way down their driveway onto the main thoroughfare, how are we addressing that situation where it may be backed up and you may have to drive around Riverside. You may have to drive around. How are we going to deal with that?
So we
conflict with that.
Yeah,
that's what we were trying to get at.
Right, and in order to address that, what I tried to add in was, it shall not cause an unsafe conditions for vehicles in the travel lane, to try and allow for some discretion as to when and where you find those trucks parking. So that's a discretionary piece.
So, Riverside has pseudo bike lanes, so that there is some degree of separation, hopefully, that they can move over enough if they're queuing up. Again, how do we logistically think through this? Because it's pockets of concentration where this becomes an issue. Yes, it's countywide, I get it, but there's certain areas where you see a huge nexus of this, and I'm just applying that test to this area. I think I'm good for right now. I'll wait to the public hearing, but thank you for responding to what I was looking at for right now. I'm good. This is not the hearing. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, board? Okay, if not, we're going to move on to, and thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We're going to move on to tab number 8, under grants, authorize the chairman to execute a BGA, Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant funded employee contract for Cindy Edwards as Juvenile Programs Mental Health Case Manager, and sign all related documents subject to final legal review. I believe you wanted to say, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Clerk, if you could make that adjustment. And Jennifer, this morning, Director King, we have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. This is a grant-funded employee contract for a mental health case manager for our chance court in juvenile programs. And we have funding through the grant for this position for at least 3 years. I think this contract will get us through the end of this year, and then we would ask at the end of the year to continue it into next year as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Director King. Any questions for it? Okay. If not, we're going to move on to our business item. Thank you so much, Jennifer King. We're going to move to the business item, tab number 9, consideration of TEFRA, which is Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, approval for Astoria at Crystal Lake, requested by the Housing Authority of Douglas County. Shani Locken and Lucan and Locken, I think. Okay, thank you. And Attorney Joe Fowler.
Appreciate it, everyone. It's Joe Fowler. Shani's on the line. She's the bond counsel on this project. Golden United Methodist Church owns their church property on J.D. Simpson Avenue. It's 30 acres. Behind it, to the west, are a number of lots that are under contract to sell to this organization, Astoria Senior LP. And they have gotten zoning approval and proposed to build a 165-unit multifamily housing project on just under 10 acres. Access will be off Chicago Avenue, up a street called Van Zant, Road, if I remember correctly, Vanzett Mill Road, and it's being financed through the Housing Authority using multifamily bonds. And Shaney can explain all about that. The TEFRA hearing was conducted earlier last week. No one commented. And this is seeking only the approval for the issuance of the bond through the Housing Authority. Shaney, you want to add in?
Yes, absolutely, Joe. Thank you. And good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Joe did a nice job of summarizing the project, and the financing for this to construct this facility, this senior living facility, is going to be done through primarily through tax-exempt bonds. And there are, of course, as you're familiar with, a lot of different requirements under the IRS tax codes in order to be tax-exempt. The developer behind this project that owns Astoria Senior LP, they will also be requesting low-income housing tax credits on the federal level for this project. And so one of the requirements for tax-exempt bonds for a project like this in the affordable housing space is this TEFRA hearing approval. And the resolution before you really summarizes this very nicely and concisely, but your approval of the bonds is really the last piece in completing this or meeting this TEFRA hearing requirement process. This is section 147F of the IRS code. And fundamentally, this is about making sure that there is a public hearing at which the residents of the county have the opportunity to express any views that they might have about the proposed project. And so the main requirements in this process is that there be notice of the hearing at least 7 days before the hearing, so that residents know about it, that they are able to appear at the hearing at a reasonably convenient location, and that they have the opportunity to speak and express their views. And so all of that is memorialized in the report of the hearing officer that Joe Fowler provided for you. And so once all of those steps in the process are completed and the hearing has been held, then the IRS code then requires that the county approve the proposed bonds for the proposed project. And it's really, again, it's just an approval to the extent of this section 147F provision of the tax code. And so the resolution itself, you'll see, also emphasizes that the fact that this is not an endorsement of any kind by the Board of Commissioners or by the county of the actual project or the financial condition of the borrower. This is just essentially you reaffirming that the public hearing was held in accordance with those requirements. So that's really the extent of your approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Attorney Fowler and Loken. I want to make sure I get it right. It's Shirley Loken.
It's Locken.
Locken. Okay, I was close.
Just imagine that first K is a C.
Yes, okay. That's what I keep saying. Loken, Locken. Thank you. Board of Commissioners, we have any questions? All right. Sounds like pretty self-explanatory. Thank you all. Board of Commissioners, we're going to move on to okay, Commissioner Carthen has a question. I apologize. Commissioner Carthen, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mrs. Locken, can you tell me again how many units would this developer be setting aside?
They're estimating approximately 165 units for the entire facility for seniors, and then under the low-income housing tax credit requirements, I believe that they're going to be setting aside 100% of the units in order to as low income for the tax credit. Under the bond, under the tax exempt bond rules, the requirements are not that high, but they'll have to meet either a 40/60 or a 20/50. So 20% of the units would have to be at least rented to seniors that are at 50% or less of the average median income, or 40% of the units would have to be at 60% or less. Yes.
Got you. And so this is good if they are looking at 100%. Can you let us know if that is the case? Because I would definitely wanna wanna know about this. I have seniors asking me all the time about, what is Douglas County doing? How can you help the seniors? They're being kind of priced out of their homes. They're wanting to sell because rates are so high now. So people do want to sell, but they also want to stay in the county. So this would possibly be one of the ways that they could possibly do that. I know it's based on income, but again, I think this could definitely be a win-win for Douglas County and definitely our seniors.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of need for
Yeah, it really is.
everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will confirm what they're anticipating right now. Of course, they're still structuring the final
A deal. Exactly. And is this a developer that has developed in Douglas County before, or have they done this model elsewhere in the state of Georgia?
So Joe might know if they've done it in the county. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head if they've done this development or this type of a development in Douglas County, but I know that the Benoit Group, which is the developer behind this this project, they're very well established. They have done these types of projects throughout the state.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to any information that you can get us. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield.
Torini, we'll try to find that out between now and Tuesday. If we hear it earlier, I'll email that to the office and send it to Lisa.
Thank you, Joe.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Okay, if there are no other further.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with this chapter in financing, this is obviously something that's important to me that I follow, but I'm gonna keep this simple. Is Dr. Gilchrist out there? I'd like to know how many seniors do we have that may come through that looks for housing? Can you add more to this? I get what the developer is, but I want to see, okay, what impact this is going to make.
Dr. Gilchrist, are you on the line today? Vice Chair Dr. Gilchrist is not with us.
If she's not, can we make sure we have an answer on Tuesday, or she be present Tuesday to answer the question? Yes. What is the actual impact? What is the need of housing that we have a record in Douglas County through her agency? And then I can compare that against what this developer is doing. And it's just, again, it's order of magnitude. I do appreciate it, what I'm listening to, but I'm trying to make an informed decision. And then I hate just doing yeses and nos. I like to do it all relative, right? So I think I'm good on that. One question is, and this is to Mr. Fowler. Mr. Fowler, you still out there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So how fast would this transaction be done, all things being equal? Overall,
the financing will go forward relatively soon. Shani can probably give you a better idea about when that actually break ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to complete this before the end of the year, at least the financing, I think, and then they would break ground, typically within a month after that. Now, I have, a caveat there is, quite often there are a lot of pieces, of course, to getting this all into place, completing all the title work and the real property due diligence and things like that. Really just to get all the pieces in place before they can finalize the financing. Sometimes these transactions get a little bit delayed just based on getting the final permitting, things like that. But their expectation is to complete the financing and close on the project and then get started by the end of the year or early next year.
Commissioner Robinson, I'm familiar with what's going on with respect to the title. The zoning is proper. I've been speaking to some of the contracting parties. Everything is lined up from that perspective. So there'll be no administrative delays concerning local regulatory matters. In fact, what's happening here with respect to the TEFRA approval is really the last step in that process. Financing's in place. They got the money for the $23 million necessary to build it, and then break ground and start construction.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Great question. We certainly need it.
Yeah, no, that's what I was looking for. I'm good. Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Madam Chair. I'm good.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Joe and Shane.
Yeah.
See you Tuesday.
Board of Commissioners, tab number 10. We're going to move on to approval of third and fourth quarter ARPA funded technology projects in the amount of $70,000 as recommended by the Technology Committee. We have our Chief Information Officer this morning, Alex Bendencourt, to discuss this matter. Alex, are you on the line?
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. What we have here is just the home stretch of our ARPA projects. As you see in the document, we made good progress on all the projects that we're trying to ambitiously complete by the end of the year. The Technology Committee and myself decided that for the third and fourth quarter, we'd like to get a head start on that to offset some of the industry issues that we're having with supply chains and getting support and getting services implemented. So the sooner that we move in on this, and the sooner we can start the agreement process and legal process and procurement process, the better chance we have of getting this completed by our goal at the end of the year.
Any questions, board? Right. Thank you.
Thank
Chief
you.
Information Officer. We're going to move on to tab number 11, approval of a 20 feet wide utility easement for Georgia Power to install an underground distribution line through the grounds of the county's EMS and fire headquarters facility to serve the city's green space and amphitheater project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Director Valentin, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to all the commissioners. We received a request from the city of Douglasville for an easement. Essentially, there is a power line that runs along the westerly side of the fire headquarters, EMS and fire headquarters building. And they're wanting to intercept that aerial feed and run it underground, partially through the property, the lower section on fronting Church Street, and then across the street to serve their new facility. So it is a 20-foot wide easement, at least in the areas where it can be as much as 20 feet wide, for them to run the power underground. It will be through lawn area and to some extent through the paved access to the dumpster area in the back.
Any questions, board? Okay, if there are no questions, we're going to move on. Tab number 12 is approval of a quit claim deed to vacate the 10-foot wide strip of a segment of the 60-foot wide right-of-way previously dedicated to the county by DCT Douglas Hill LLC to effect the amended condition of zoning previously approved by the board, reducing the county's right-of-way to 50 feet and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Director Valentin, you have the floor again.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You may recall there was an item through the Planning and Zoning Board asking for an amendment to the condition of approval that required this particular facility to dedicate the right-of-way for a future road, which is yet to be built. But nonetheless, during the construction, they actually installed a retaining wall partially within that right-of-way that they dedicated. And as part of the planning and zoning item, the board had agreed to dedicate back or to vacate 10 feet of what had been dedicated by DCT to the county, vacate it back to them, is subject to maintaining a no-access easement. There is quite a bit of an elevation difference between the two properties. And so there will be no access from one to, from their property to the future road right-of-way. And essentially this is, this item is the final formal approval of the quitclaim deed that would affect that approval that the board granted through the planning and zoning process.
Any questions, board? All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the next one. Tab number 13 is our next tab, which will be approval of the task order number 1 in the amount of $1,454,878.18 to Atkins North America, Inc. for the design and construction, engineering, and inspection of the Spine Road and new signalized intersection at Fairburn Road to serve the trails and movie studio projects in the Fairburn Road Tax Allocation District, which is a TAD, to be funded from the general fund, which is to be reimbursed from future TAD proceeds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Director Valentin, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we are at a point where we are ready to move that process forward. The county has already agreed to sponsor the design and construction of the road project. The goal is to have the design of the Spine Road, which is essentially between the two projects, and the intersection, a new intersection on State Route 92 Fairburn Road, to get that designed sufficiently to apply for an encroachment permit from the Georgia DOT and a signal permit. And so the sooner we get that design underway, the better chance we have of meeting the 18-month timeline that they're looking for. Essentially, we looked through the on-call consultants, who was next on the docket to do a project for us, and so Atkins was next in line, and so we're ready to, if it's the board's will, to approve this design contract to get that process underway.
Thank you so much, Director Valentin. Any questions, board? Okay, no questions. We're going to move.
Yeah.
Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Yes, 18 months. I get it, Miguel. For the record, again, we talked about this in transportation. So to my full board, do we have any exposure of not making that date? I mean, I know this is a critical path, and I know you're on it. But what risk do we have not being able to make that date, and the impact that that could be?
Essentially, they're looking to have their construction completed sufficiently to need to have that road in place to provide full access to their development. Now, I've had discussions with them as it relates to the potential that not all the elements of the project may be completed within that time frame. And they've indicated, of course, a desire to have everything completed. However, there is the potential for, should there be an issue with the signal permit, which is what takes the longest review time at GDOT, if the signal permit is not achieved in sufficient advance enough time to then follow through with the construction and get it completed within the 18 months, that potentially the road element, the Spine Road proper on the westerly side of Fairburn Road could be completed by way of an encroachment permit separate from the signal. And so that appears to be much more achievable within that time frame. And they understand that. It's not their plan A, but it would be an acceptable plan B under the circumstances.
Thank you for that. And then my second and last comment is, as we build this Spine Road, and there's different elements that's coming into this master plan, residential, commercial, government, administrative, studio, whatever you want to call it. Some elements will go in, some elements may not in their entirety. I'm hoping that somebody's paying attention to some of these side decisions that are being made and the impact over this overall project. So my question is, and you don't own this, Miguel. My question is, Madam Chair, who is the owner's rep for this entire project? That while I know Miguel has it straight, got it, check. There's a lot of moving parts that we're intangibly or indirectly or tangentially involved in. And I'm just curious, who owns this? Who's our owner's rep to ensure that what we need to get done out of this is? We have many people coming to us, different developer groups, And I'm like, okay, are y'all synchronizing this? Okay, if you don't put the hotel over there, or if you don't put that admin there, you know that goes away. Then that happens. Like, are y'all paying attention? And so it's more rhetorical. Don't answer them. I think it's something we need to take a look at. That yes, the studio has their thing, they're fine, the spine road, but there's a lot going on in this master development in which it is a TAD, which means our hand is involved, ladies and gentlemen. We can't just close our eyes and think this is private sector alone. You have a tax allocation district, which means that we need to have some degree of visibility. We need to keep up with what's going on, something that we're giving benefit back. Then you got to have ownership. You have to have a vested attention span to this project. I'm just saying, I ain't gonna always be here, but y'all got to pay attention to this. Don't let this get away from y'all. Don't let this be a disaster because we're not paying attention. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. It's something I'm expressly for the record, Lisa. Make sure what I just said gets into the official record. That we need to have somebody that's an owner of it. We've been talking about this on demand. I'm like, gosh, y'all, I gave you the money. You got money. You got access to consultants, but y'all are not applying it. Deputy, assistant, y'all need to get on this. Y'all need to appoint somebody who's going to be the owner's rep. That's talk to the attorney. It's in the language. We're not acting on this. Miguel is running. He's doing his thing, but he should not be the default project manager. He's just transportation. No, Miguel's going to do Miguel. He's going to get it done. But there's other parts to this. Who's keeping up with this money and how this thing begins to grow in value and how we're going to recoup this? I'm sure that our new CFO, who's brand new, on third day, she's like, okay, what did he just say? I'll catch up with you, Madam CFO. But y'all need to, who's owning this? So anyway, Madam Chair, it's just a comment. I look forward to this going forward, and I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Certainly it was a comment, but also thank you, Ms. Food, for thought as well. So our assistant county administrator and our deputy county administrator, we definitely will make sure we put some effort to making this happen, to make sure that we do have an owner's rep, because this project is ours. It is a TAD. So we get it. So thank you. Any other comment forward? If not, we're going to move on to our next item. And again, thank you, Vice Chair, for prompting our attention. Tab number 14, approval of a contract with the Corporate Group LLC in the amount of $2,123,427 for construction of the Stewart Mill and Reynolds Intersection Improvement Project to be funded from the 2016 SPLOST funds currently allocated to the project, with an additional allocation of $640,000 in the 2016 SPLOST funds from funds currently allocated to the Lee Road project, which is PH2 widening project, and $149,315.04 in remaining 2002 SPLOST transportation bonds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Director Valentine, again, that was a mouthful, but you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It is a bit disjointed in the sense that the funding initially, the funding allocation from 2016 SPLOST was about 1.7 million, and that included the design and all of the other elements, permits, and the like. And so with the bid coming in at a little over 2.1 million, we found ourselves short in being able to award the contract. However, we did find and confirmed with Finance Department that there is still $149,315.04 remaining from the 2002 SPLOST that have been allocated to the Stewart Mill and Yancey and Stewart Mill and Reynolds design components, and not all of it was used. So those funds can be transferred to this project, allocated to a project. That's still, we also need the testing during construction, which is about, we're estimating a budget of about 13,000 and some change estimated. It may go as high as 15,000, but that's the ballpark. That leaves us at the $640,000 short, which, based on a review of the Lee Road Phase 2 construction project, there is funding that can be pulled from that project because it is, the county did receive additional federal funding on the project, and based on what we have, the change orders to date, we've only added a little over $9,000 to the overall project cost of contract, which was $18,774,000 and change. And so we're tracking fairly well within the cost. We are anticipating having a change order at the next opportunity. That's going to be a deductive change order. It's going to tweak a number of items, but it will result in about a little over 2,000 savings. So we're tracking fairly well. We anticipate that after this allocation from the Lee Road project, there would still be about 7.4, well, there is 7.4 million unallocated funds at this point. It would leave us with 6.7 or so unallocated funding on that project. So we were able to cover the project, and we anticipate the lighting that goes with it will cost something less, perhaps 500,000, certainly less than $1 million. So I think we're still well funded there. But anyway, I'll stop there and be ready to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Director. Any questions, board? Okay.
Yes. I'll yield.
Commissioner Guida.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. This is a long time coming.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. The citizens thought they were going to get it back in 2002. But anyway, would you give an estimated time of moving dirt and how long the project's going to last? Because that is a main corridor through there, and it's going to cause a lot of traffic problems. So if you could just kind of touch on the plans, when we're going to start really doing the, well, we haven't bid it out yet, have we?
Yes, we have. We're ready to go to construction.
Okay, so they can start anytime they have the money allocated. So
Yeah, to answer your question, Commissioner, if the board approves the budget and the contract, then it'll go through the signatory process. And once we have signed contracts in hand, then we will set up a pre-construction meeting with the contractor. And construction needs to start within 10 days after that. So I would anticipate if all goes well, we will have things ready for, I'd say around early October, we will begin construction. Now, construction on projects generally early on in the process consists of clearing the right of way, cutting trees where needed, cutting trees down where needed, and moving the utilities. That is it's a slower process. So there will be some activity out there. There'll be survey markers and the like. You will see some activity, and there will be some safety elements, drums. We refer to those as Georgia trees along the road. But nonetheless, there will be some activity certainly before the end of the year. And then I would anticipate that actual construction will begin in earnest in the new year. And it is slated to take a year to complete. So by the end of 2023, the project should be wrapped up and delivered.
you also have a stream there, and I guess I don't know if it's like a big culvert, concrete culvert or bridge or whatever, but that's going to slow the process down too.
That is correct.
Have we already done all the hurdles that EPD requires?
Yes, we've obtained all of the necessary permits. We're ready to go to construction.
Okay, well, it's been badly needed. I wish they had done it back in 2009 when we had the washout and everything. That would have been ideal to do that. But anyway, I just wanted to give the citizens some idea about the timeline. There will be some traffic delays, I know, but I assume you can accommodate most of that. So glad to see this project moving forward finally. Thank you. Now you're back.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Guyder. Vice Chairman, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, Madam Guyder triggered, I'm glad she went first, triggered some thought. So 2002, you're using funding, it's 20 years, a generation later. And I go back to, I get the sense. And I get that even more people have moved out here and put more friction and heat on these roads. And it's our commitment to keep up with general maintenance and improvements of intersections and things that are related. You have to plan this. But I'm sensitive to, but what have we done with the money that we've gotten? Why are we still spending from 2002? So, at our next, this is related, and to Madam C, FO, it's important, and to Mr. Deputy and Madam ACA, we talked about having a reconciliation of our SPLOS 2016, as in what's going to get caught off if the referendum doesn't go forth based on what the public says. What gets cut off like April 2023? I want to know exactly that number. Our guys already know this. But I also want to know, like, well, what's left in the 2022? The 2002, Madam Chair, this has been 4 or 5 instances where we were still pulling money. We completed the football field in 2002 in your watch. Like, how much money y'all sitting on over there? See, this is like, okay, we got money for a football field. Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. We got money for an intersection like this massive one. How much money are we sitting on? I mean, I'm adding this up. I mean, y'all been sitting on probably about $5 million based on just somebody saying, hey, we got some money back here. Hey, we got some money back here. Well, can we get a single view of our spots? Now, it's my understanding that 2009, we spent every dime of that one within $1,000. We spent everything. Everything. But it's interesting that we don't have an idea, if nobody can provide us with, well, how much money are we sitting on from 2002? That's important to know, guys. You need to reconcile that. And secondly, Miguel, to this project, we talked about this in committee. Did we make it as a recommendation, or did we just go with straight administrative concurrence to the board? How do we handle this using these different sources of funding?
My recollection is that we sent it to the board for deliberation and concurrence.
All right, so this is important on this particular topic, guys. We didn't go with a recommendation. We said, okay, well, let the board make a decision, because you're going to set a precedent of pulling money out of an active project. If we come up short, I hear you. We're trying to accommodate inflation in another project. And I get it. And I'm allowing it, like, oh, okay. And you guys have to agree to use this funding, this formula, which I have no problem, but y'all gonna have to agree on this one. But it says suppressing. Yeah, we got room, but again, we keep thinking that we got money coming. We got money coming. But yet you got inflation. That's what I'm saying. Lock this stuff up, guys. It's sort of like when the banks tell you, no, we're gonna lock up the interest rate. There's a reason that you gotta have stuff fixed, guys. You can't just let it keep moving. Right? You can't play at this level with that stuff. Like, you're just moving stuff. You're just letting it move. You're like, guys, okay, y'all know. At some point, somebody will come up short with something. And so I'm just trying to make y'all aware of how we're doing this. So again, you guys will make a decision on Tuesday to do it this way, but I'm fine as it is. Madam Chair, I made my 2 points. Thank you, and Miguel answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any other comments forward? All right, thank you. This is, again, I echo the sentiments of Commissioner Guyder. That this project has certainly been a long time coming, and I know Commissioner Carpenter is excited as well. Yeah, it's been on the books for about 20 years, and we've made a lot of comments, and that was my question is, what was done before this administration got here? There's a lot of things that hadn't been done, and our body of work is certainly unmatched. So we are continuing to press forward, but I do have a question for you, Director Valentine. Are we notifying the citizens in this particular corridor about this major project that's coming forth? Have you sent mailers or anything? You know, I'm big on communication about, so they won't be upset and confused as this project is being delivered.
Yes, Madam Chair, we will be sending out notices to the neighborhoods. We haven't as of yet. We want to make sure that the project is a go. But as it would be typical, as we've done on other projects, we would reach out to the community, and we will also be posting a sign out there indicating that the project is coming.
And then also perhaps some alternate routes as well, to in case we, because that's one of the routes that I travel coming into the courthouse. But that's okay. If you could just divert us in a different direction, have some good signage up, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. We'll do that.
And it's not all about me, it's about the citizens. But I was just thinking it may be a challenge coming through that area. But it's a long time coming, and we're excited. Board, if there are no other questions, then thank you, Director Valentine. We're going to move on to tab number 15, and that's yours again. Approval of a task order number 2 in the amount of $13,150 to Nova Engineering and Environmental LLC for field and material testing on the Stewart Mill and Reynolds Intersection Improvement Project to be funded from the 2016 SPLOS funds currently allocated to the project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Director Valentine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is related to the previous item. We have to do construction testing of materials, the asphalt, some of the concrete that goes in. And so the estimated amount is at this point $13,150. That may vary depending on how many tests we do, but generally that's sort of the order of magnitude that we're looking at. But it is necessary for us to do this as part of the construction process.
Any questions for it? No. We're going to move on to tab number 16, approval of a change order number 3 in the amount of $882 on the contract with CMES Inc. for construction of the Lee Road Phase 2 widening project to be funded from the 2016 SPLOS funds currently allocated to the project, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Director Valentine, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is related to a development that was approved, and it's going to be or is already partially under construction along Lee Road. They have an entrance, obviously, that was designed based on county criteria that was not part of our original plans. And so we're having to move things around and accommodate this new entrance so that as the road project goes through, there is no conflict between what they were proposing and what we're going to be building. So it is an adjustment of our original design to accommodate their new driveway, and they will reimburse the county for the cost. So even though initially it's going to come out of the SPLOS, we will receive a reimbursement from the developer once the construction is completed.
Thank you, Director. Any questions for me?
Madam Chair?
Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Director Valentine, what's the cost for this?
$882 is the total cost. There's a number of items that some were eliminated, some were added, but in the sum total, it adds $882 to the project cost, but it will be reimbursed by the developer, so it's going to be net zero eventually.
No, I really not thought you said 882,000, but I'm about to challenge that. No, you're fine. 882, you're fine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other questions for you? If not, we're going to move on to tab number 17. Is approval of a contract amendment number 1 in the amount of $39,530 on the contract with the Hughes Ray firm for landscape architectural services at the I-20 Lee Road interchange for additional landscaping improvements to be funded from the tree fund, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents subject to final legal review. Your final one, team, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this item related to the improvements there at Lee Road. One of the things that we've heard about is the intersection, the interstate interchange is actually much larger than others along I-20. And the level of landscaping that was installed kind of gets lost in the vastness of the green area, if you will, and it really to make a statement and to have something that is more comparable to the size of the interchange, then this particular element would develop a design to add plantings. It's not going to take away anything that's there, but it's just going to add additional plantings, augment some of the quadrants, particularly on the westerly side of the interchange. They did not get as many plantings, and because of the size, this would provide a better look and be more commensurate with the size of the interchange. So I'll stop there and answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you so much, Director Valentine. Okay. All right, board, we're going to move on to item 18, which is approval of a form of escrow agreement to be used in connection with the sale of the property to the city of Douglasville. Attorney Coleman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you recall, we previously approved agreements. They've not been executed yet, but for the purchase by the city from the county of 2 parcels of land. In connection with that transaction, a portion of the payment price will be put into escrow, and it will be held pursuant to an escrow agreement. And this is a simple form of escrow agreement. Nothing really controversial about it. They're going to hold the funds in escrow pending the closing, and they'll come over to us after the closing. So that's what this agreement is. Any questions?
Any questions for? Okay, no questions. We're going to move on to our next tab number 19, which is approval of the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Douglasville, City of Villa Rica, and the City of Austell for the 2023 SPLOST. Attorney Coleman, you have the floor again.
This is the intergovernmental agreement for the SPLOST for 2022, which will start in 2023. We are still working on the language of with respect to one provision. Hopefully we'll have that resolved by the meeting next week. But this simply, basically authorizes the various expenditures and goes through the relationship between the county and the different cities in connection with the collection, payment of SPLOST proceeds, and those kinds of issues. So that's what this is. If we are able to resolve those provisions before the meeting on Tuesday, then I'll ask your approval on Tuesday. If we're not able to, I'll ask maybe we defer to the next meeting. It just depends on what progress we can make on that one provision.
Thank you so much, Attorney Coleman. Board of Commissioners, any questions from our team? Okay. We don't have any. All right.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Vice Chair Watson.
Yeah, there's, and again, maybe this is something that may be more for executive session, but does this have an impact on our loss negotiations, things with the SCS? I'm trying to make sure that things are not done in silos. And as we work through these intergovernmental relationships that evolve by statutory, requirement.
Need everybody, you can phone, please, mics.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Statute, that statutory requirement, are we lining everything up? And again, you've got this project that's over in the corner working its way out with the cities, but you got this one back home. It's like, okay, guys, what y'all are doing is impacting over here. Where we're at, and this has a different timeline. So, County Attorney, if it doesn't go forth, and that you can't get this settled, what is the impact since this is public? What is the impact if we don't have this that you're suggesting in place because the timing is just off, couldn't get there?
Well, we've got to get there in order to go forward with the SPOS election. I mean, we've got to have an IGA. We don't have to have an IGA, but the ballot that we propose and advertise contemplates an IGA. I think we're close enough that we will get it done. I don't think that, we're contemplating not getting it done. I think we'll get there. Everybody, all the lawyers of the cities all recognize that we need to come to some terms on this. And we are working to line it up with the other negotiations that are going on, and the other agreements that exist. In fact, one of the issues we're discussing is how to reconcile the provisions of one agreement with the other. And we've got some, good suggestions on the table to get it worked out.
Great. I'm glad to hear that the lawyers are agreeing. Hopefully the elected officials are all in agreement. I mean, all No, we're good. I'm going to let that go. I made my point. I yield, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Vice Chair, thank you, Coleman. All right, that concludes our all the tabs on our for our work session. But certainly wanted to see if there were any comments that you would like to make before I tap into our attorney regarding an executive session.
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner comment.
Commissioner comment. You have the floor.
Great. County Clerk, did you get an email from our office regarding legislative matters?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. Very good. And again, I chose not to push the chain of the agenda per se. We can just pick it up in commissioner comment because there's no action that can that should be taken at this moment. But County Clerk, can we just read the purpose in just a second to my fellow peers as we did last year? We had the legislative reform act initiative where we took up certain matters on a broader package scale, going down that same path this year. Whether you do your independent or we do it collectively, it's important that as we go through this budget, you put legislation around certain matters to either crank it up or crank it down accordingly. And so I just want to make a marker on this one. We'll bring it up formally at the next meeting. I'll put forth the first draft of something to all. You guys weigh in, not weigh in. You know how this works. But again, it's important that we keep this is us doing our job on the legislative side. So, County Clerk, can you just read that, just the paragraph with the purpose? That's all I need, please.
Yes, sir. The purpose is the BOC desire to establish, affirm, amend, and or abolish the following county ordinance for department policies in whole or in part. Department policies and ordinance are county charter, human resources, finance, procurement, insurance, risk, alcohol, technology, and alcohol is listed twice. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Good enough. I just want to stop there. Again, guys, if you have something that you'd like to add, please feel free. Obviously, your input is going to be important in shaping these matters that we have talked about along the way. Obviously, some of your committees, I paid attention that you are already working on some of these things. You already have drafts or things that you're putting forth. So it is already inclusive based on what we've heard, and it is a team effort. So I just wanted to make that marker. Again, there's no action need to be taken at this point. Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor to make my comments, and I yield. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Vice Chair. Any other comments from commissioners? If there are none, certainly I will, Attorney Coleman, do we need to go into executive session?
Madam Chair, yes, we need executive session for personnel matters and potential litigation.
The citizens of Douglas County. So we will take your calls. I need everyone to mute their mics, please. For citizens of Douglas County, the Board of Commissioners, and I will take calls for the call to engage in open session. Do not have a definitive time when we are here, but your patience is greatly appreciated. With that being said, Commissioners, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved as asked.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion in the second. Any discussion, board? We have
one, Madam Chair, to add. Coleman, is this also going to include a SDS in this conversation in executive session and loss, I guess, and the legal?
I had not contemplated including it, but as it is potential, there's some potential litigation involved there. You certainly can.
Please do. Okay. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. We have a motion and second on the floor. When we call your districts, please respond. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes, ma'am.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote to go into executive session, and the motion carries. Clerk, you have the floor to
You are back live. The floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Thank you to the citizens of Douglas County and your patience while myself and the Board of Commissioners engaged in executive session. Board of Commissioners, do you have any closing comments before in the work session today? If not, I want to just wish our citizens of Douglas County a happy Labor Day, and hope you enjoy your weekend. And please continue to stay safe because we're still in this pandemic. And just ask if you just continue to be cognizant of the 3 W's. Otherwise, enjoy your Labor Day, citizens of Douglas County, and we will see you on Tuesday in person. We have our BOC legislative meeting in person at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And to follow, we'll have a PM Planning and Zoning meeting that evening at 6 p.m. All right. Well, thank you, citizens of Douglas County, and to the Board of Commissioners for your time and talent today. And if there's nothing else to come before this body, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.